Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke, and I am joined by Strictly Business Christian Carr. Welcome to the show, Christian.
Glad to be on here. Excited to talk a little bit.
And I'm excited to have you on the show. Your nickname's fantastic. What's even more fantastic is you are fresh, just days off your pro debut win, which is just at the top of the experience, I'm sure, of what you wanted to do. You're also the former featherweight amateur champ for Maverick. You just made your debut. You had a stellar 5-1 amateur MMA career with the one blemish being split decision. So one judge thought you had won it. So almost a perfect MMA record as an amateur. You are really not even a prospect anymore since you're an undefeated pro, but you've been a prospect for a long time. Let's start with your pro debut and work backwards. So start a few days ago. What was it like emotionally transitioning from an already incredibly successful amateur to your pro debut? What were those emotions like?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy, I put all this work in over these years to pretty much get to this point, right? But this point is just the beginning of a new start, really. So, I had a pretty successful amateur career, so that was obviously very good. But, when you're making that transition into pro, everybody could kind of care less what you did beforehand. I'm starting off new, starting off fresh. I did have a loss in my amateur career. I have an opportunity to start fresh and, build with some new blocks and, create a new picture.
Well, that is super present focused, humble of your success in your amateur career, which I think is a great attribute to have, because if your best success was as an amateur, then your pro career won't be good. You want your best success to be as a pro, which is fantastic. If we take just a moment on the amateur career, for you, it could be your first fight, which was a debut win, could be your last. What was the highlight of your amateur career as we move forward into your pro career?
There's a couple things. I fought on Donald Cerrone's Cowboy Fight Series at one time. That was a pretty cool opportunity to be able to fight in front of him. That was also kind of my first little bit of adversity. It was the first time I ever got taken down in a fight. First time I was ever on bottom in a fight. So to me, that's a cool experience because, there's a new look on how, the fight can go. Might not always go my way all the time. So that opened my eyes a little bit, and being able to perform and ending up with a submission win at the end of that in front of Cowboy was pretty cool. But ultimately, for, a big picture thing, just, coming up around the people I came up around and being with the people I'm with now is definitely my highlight.
Definitely makes sense to both be about your training partners. I know you used to train. Do you still train with Zach Kelly, a guy I know from Eastern Pennsylvania, who I believe fought several times for USKA back when I was around there. Let's get to the Cowboy fight a little bit. I can't imagine that was in Pennsylvania. Did you have to fly somewhere out west? Like, what was that whole situation like?
We were in Virginia, right? So we were just down south a little bit, and it was also a cool opportunity because that's my first time I got to fight in a pro rule set. So got to throw elbows in that one. So that was an enjoyable experience, as opposed to fighting in Pennsylvania as an amateur. You're very restricted.
So in that state, they had all pro rules for amateur, which was a great experience for you. Did that give you an extra sense of calm? Because obviously potential knees to the face, unlimited clinch, elbows, head kicks. What was it like knowing that you had already had that experience prior to your debut as a pro?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely useful to kind of be in that live setting like that. But at the same time, growing up since I was, 15 years old, training with all the guys I've, grew up alongside, nobody was holding back at throwing any head kicks or knees to the head just because I was an amateur, So I've been sparring and I've been training like that for just about as long as I've been doing it. So, it's really huge to me to I'm not worried about, new opportunities coming into me because of that, but I'm, blessed to be able to kind of expand off my arsenal by having those options.
And without making this a game plan for your next fight, I'm not asking for that, of course. As a pro now, what are you most looking forward to in the pro rule set that you'll be in for the next 10, 15, 20 years? I mean, there's no going back. once you're a pro, so it's
Yep.
pro for the rest. But so what are you looking for to grow into as far as a pro with the skill set?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I've been training, almost half my life at this point. And, I know what I'm capable of. And I know, regardless of my performance, I know how much more I can do than what I'm able to show in, a 5 to 15 minute time span. Right. So I'm really just excited to have new opportunities to, approach fights in different ways, approach positions in different ways, create opportunities to maybe hit some cooler techniques, some, cooler, slicker submissions and stuff, stuff that I like to do, stuff that I do often, but stuff I haven't had the opportunity to kind of interact with in a fight setting yet, because, it's not only what I can do to somebody, but they also have to kind of play into what I'm trying to make happen for some opportunities to arise. So I'm just excited for opportunity of all things to really just showcase everything I've been doing for my whole life.
Well, you talk about a slick submission. Obviously, maybe one day you'll hit a twister or some type of crazy submission. But let's not overlook the fact that not only did you win your pro debut, you finished your opponent in the second round by a rear naked choke. And I understand that in the arsenal of chokes, that's sort of basic. But at the same time, if you look at all the top level promotions, it's one of the most efficient and overwhelming. I've had a lot of MMA fighters say that a submission win that you achieved is in many ways better than a knockout, because in a knockout, your opponent doesn't have a choice. And in a submission, your opponent has the choice to either tap and submit or go unconscious. And in many ways, it's even more defeating. So what was it like? Can you walk us through the setup for the submission in the second round for you?
So, exactly like you said, to me, it's like, if I accidentally knock somebody out, that'll be cool. But, ultimately I'm going to get on top of somebody and, try to work for those submissions for the exact reason of, I'd rather make this guy, so defeated in his own conscious mind that he has to make that choice to decide, I'm done. I can't handle this anymore. For those exact reasons, I believe it's much more dominant. Obviously, you flatline somebody that proves a point, but when they're there for the whole thing, it's a different experience. So to me, I'm always seeking out those submissions. As far as this one coming up, I've been working on nothing but my back control, right? It's real important to me that I'm focusing on how I'm positionally controlling people, not so much just like trying to throw Hail Marys at them. So getting to the back was a goal I had in mind. And I know that once I got that opportunity, I could probably make something happen. I work with tons of good guys, and there's tons of good guys who can't keep me off their back. And I think I have the opportunity against anybody I go to that, if I can get a hold of them, I could probably get to their back. If I can get to their back, I could probably choke them.
Well, I mean, that's a very confident and impressive thing to have in your tool belt. I think if you follow UFC, one of the greatest kind of back game guys, and in some ways it was used almost to tease him, but I don't think it's an incident at all, is Damian Maya, who Tyron Woodley once said, "Oh, I'm going to wear a backpack because you're going to be on my back." It is terrifying to have somebody on your back as a backpack, whether you're standing or on the ground in the prone position on all fours or flattened out would obviously be the worst position. So the fact that you've already developed sort of your dominant, if I'm going way back to Randy Couture, who was dominant in ground and pound, and Tito Ortiz, who made ground and pound big, you making back control sort of your Ronda Rousey armbar is a big deal, because I think there's more to back control. It's a much more dominant and long-lasting position. Just as a kind of a weird question, but it relates, of course, is in your back control, do you prefer the two hooks, or do you prefer a fully locked up triangle, body triangle, and why or why not? Because it's just a curiosity.
Right. So as far as my back control, my focus isn't so much on my hook positioning. It's more so focused on my chest positioning to their back. And I like to work my inside tie controls, right? For the case of, Hooks, they're super useful, right? If you're using them to finish positions and stuff like that. But in an MMA setting where it's continuous scrambles, you don't really find those settled positions like you do in, say, a jiu-jitsu tournament. It's important to me to have the ability to transition. And a lot of times when I have hooks in, people who understand how to defend properly, they'll find kind of their way out. And I'm almost overly committed with my body to set up a new transition rather than to like step over the mount or something like that. When I focus on my chest to back control and I focus on my wrist controls, I can follow them through these transitions by continuing to ride chest to back, keeping my pressure forward. And I find much more success with that. As far as hooks do go, if I'm going to be attacking with them, I typically, Damian Maya style, will hook the singular low side leg and work into just a standard cross leg control, or I'll work into my lockdown control because, like you mentioned earlier, I like those twisters a lot. So.
Wow. Well, you mentioned you connected it into Damian Maya, which was fantastic. I didn't realize he was one of your go-to guys, but of course it makes sense. One of the things that's so cool about jiu-jitsu specifically is the ability to develop a style, right? The ability to develop not only your submissions and defenses, but also the way you chain things together, the way you look for certain things, whether you're El Kukui, who was hitting standing Darce chokes from a Muay Thai setup, and to my knowledge, holds the record number of Darce chokes in the UFC. It should even be called the El Kukui or the Ferguson in my mind. So there's something beautiful about pure BJJ where styles develop. Eddie Bravo has a famous style. Obviously Damian Maya has a famous style. But what's cooler is seeing a style of one martial arts put into MMA where you can apply that chest to back, which for anybody out there, take it from an undefeated pro fighter in Christian Carr, that tightness is really, really important. A lot of your coaches will talk about that chest to spine, chest to spine, chest to spine. That's a huge deal. Back control can sometimes be sloppy. You pointed that out. If you go hooks, the chest can be all over the place and not restricted. And a lot of times people feel confident because they've got the hooks, but if the person is fast, they can actually spin around and end up in top guard. So great technical advice to anyone who's listening, whether it's your first day or your thousands and first day. Great stuff. I mean, just incredible. Man, that was fun talking about the X's and O's. I get excited. Did not know when I mentioned twister that you actually would like to hit a twister, given the fact that you use a low side single leg hook, which sets up the twister. Is that something, and I can't imagine you practice it much in training, because as a spine compression, torsion, submission, it's not the friendliest to use. Is that something that you drill, and how do you drill it if you drill a submission, twister submission?
I mean, twister is one of my top 3 favorites, right?
No way.
So I attack them very often. You ask the guys at my gym, I get in my lockdown position, and as I start to feed that arm, a lot of them look over and they're like, "Oh no, come on!" And a joke I have with a few of those guys, I say, "Hey, you check the weather today?" And they're like, "Oh no, why?" I say, "There's a tornado warning," right? Then I'll try to twister them up.
Oh
yeah. So when I'm rolling in no gi, I'll work my twister hook position a lot, and there's some options there. A lot of what I have been working on recently is I get in my twister hook position, right? Obviously, if I get you there and you work with me a lot, I like them. So people are always high in that arm. So I found some ways that I can work toward the feet, work kind of like spread eagle and electric chair stuff into calf slicers and just some foot attacks that will get people reaching. And when they reach, I can re-attack that upper body. So another thing that I do that's that's been real important is as I control that twister hook, right? Before I can get my lockdown position, right? A lot of times what happens is people's hips will be low because I'm using that kind of like singular hook position. So I'll just give them a pull, scoop them up with my knee, with my top side knee, and I'll be able to kind of feed into my lockdown position from there. So that's where I find a lot of success with it. And I'm typically a left side twister kind of guy. I'm a little bit of a one-trick pony when it comes to that.
Well, this has become one of the most detailed BJJ interviews probably that I've done in a long time. So for all of you BJJ fans out there, Champ, you're giving incredible advice. If you were ever on my back setting up a twister in a sparring, I'm going to take your free hook and I'm going to put it over my waist just to make sure. It's like sometimes you got to make a position worse to make it better. But incredible detail. It almost sounds like you said the electric chair calf slicers. You could also hit the banana split. It's efficient. It can work. Obviously, that's something you hit. Wow. The fact that you run through these, what a lot of people call, and maybe I'll ask you this question, Champ. Here's the quick question. Do you believe, because as a former coach, I would call everything we talked about tonight low percentage. And now I feel terrible for saying it. Yeah. Because what I'm realizing is that a proficient practitioner like you can take a low percentage submission, like a twister, like a calf slicer, like an electric chair, like a banana split, and make it a high percentage submission. Is that something that you've worked on, taking these submissions that are dominant but low percentage and increasing their percentage? And if so, how do you go about doing that?
Right. So, I mean, there's such thing as more low percentage moves, right? But there's moves that are a little bit more of a spectacle than others, right? And some people, since they're not so fundamental, they don't put so much time into it. Right. But everything ultimately has a process, right? It's like a move to move basis, right? So ultimately, when it comes to setting up these, some type of submissions that may be, in some opinions, a little bit harder to go about is, the way I look at it, right? It's move to move. Like I said, everybody always says jiu-jitsu is like human chess, right? It is to a point, but not for everybody, right? Because I might know how to move the pieces on the board, right? That's one thing. But if I can't understand how to counteract your moves, then I won't find much success. So in every position that I'm in, I not only think about what I'm capable of, but I think about the options of the person that I'm working with, right? So I know if, I attack one way, fundamentally, a lot of times they're going to react another way, right? So you have to kind of move your pieces in a certain way that, I need to bring his attention here. So he exposes himself here, right? So in the way where I attack the twister, right? I get my hook in, everybody thinks, oh, he's going twister. I start attacking your feet. You're like, I need to address this, or, I might be too far gone, right? So as soon as they stop thinking about twister and they're thinking, what's he doing down low? Right. Then, like I said, they'll start to reach. I'll start to find new opportunity and stuff. So ultimately, what I think it plays into is not only knowing your positional options, but trying to feed into what you think your opponent would be capable of defense wise to kind of expose them by making them do what's fundamentally correct.
That is high level jiu-jitsu. I always taught that concept from teaching the Americana or the key lock from crossbody and teaching people to set it up. It's a low percentage submission. When the person reaches across in order to help and defend, then you do the step back arm bar. And that's one of the first things. So if you're listening to this, again, this has become a BJJ clinical how-to. That's a good thing to learn. Try that a lot. You get in the dominant crossbody or side control position. You can reach all types of stuff from the far side. You can do a straight arm bar, which has a low percentage chance. Make them think about that and then hit the follow arm or the close arm as they try to reach. The stuff you're talking about, Champ, is even the next level, but it all follows the same practical progression, which is think 2-3 moves ahead. And what's great about the chess analogy and BJJ in MMA is your opponent has to react to you before they do their planned move. And that's a great strategy to have. You don't want to just sit back and let your opponent set things up. So, wow, has this been fun for you? Everything coming up roses in your debut fight. You're strictly business. You're on to the next fight. When is that? What do you want to do? It's hard to even ask it because you're clearly a stud. You're undefeated as a pro. But do you have a time frame? Do you have that business mindset that says, check, on to the next as far as checking the box of your first win, and what's next for you?
Yeah. So as far as like, training and everything goes, I'm already back in the gym coaching. I'm kind of dealing with a little bit of some beat up ankles and shins and stuff right now. So I'm coaching. I'm doing that for a little bit so my body heals up a little bit. But I'm always in the gym working as far as looking for the next opportunity, probably around the new year, something like that. I got some hunting trips, some fishing trips coming up that I'm getting involved with as well. So I'm looking forward to that stuff. Looking forward to enjoying myself. But between now and the next opportunity, I'll be working. You can trust that I'll be working. I always am. In the gym. Regardless of I'm training, I'm in there taking in knowledge and, just trying to expand on everything that has been built around me so far. So the ultimate goal between now and whenever the next fight is to, just continue to improve.
It's a great mindset. Thank you for giving us a little viewpoint into your future. It's been an honor and a privilege having you on the show for the first time of, I hope, many times to come. I love getting connected to fighters as they begin, in your case, your pro journey. I missed your amateur journey, but it's going to be thrilling to watch your pro career. Thanks so much for coming on the show. For everybody out there, you've been listening to Luke Payson for MMA Fancast and Christian, Strictly Business Carr. Christian, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for everything. Really appreciate it.
You got it.